The expensive car, the designer clothes, the perfect vacation photos. A little voice in your head whispers, "I need that. If I have that, people will respect me. I will be happy." This is the powerful, invisible pressure of status consumption. It's the drive to buy things not for their usefulness, but for the message they send to other people. It's an old, deep psychological trap. This guide is your psychological manual for deconstructing this modern obsession. We are going to expose the true, hidden cost of trying to impress others. At its root, the desire to impress others is an ancient human need for belonging and social approval. Your brain is wired to survive in a tribe. Being high status meant safety, resources, and better mates. Today, that survival mechanism translates into buying things that signal success. This is called conspicuous consumption. You're spending money to prove your value, not to meet a genuine need. First, the illusion of happiness. You believe the expensive purchase, the luxury watch, the massive house will make you happier. However, this happiness is short-lived. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. You buy the new thing, you get a rush of pleasure, and then quickly you get used to it. The initial joy fades back to your baseline level of happiness. It's a relentless, never-ending race. Consequently, you are constantly chasing a happiness signal that the purchase can never actually deliver. Simple example, you buy a brand new, expensive car because you think people will be impressed and you'll feel successful. For the first 2 weeks, you're happy, but then the car just becomes your ride to work. The feeling is gone. The pressure to buy the next expensive item starts building immediately. Thus, the real cost is a lifetime of chasing a feeling that is always just out of reach. Next, the trap of external validation. When you rely on expensive items to feel good about yourself, you are handing over your self-worth to other people's opinions. This is the heavy price of external validation. You are outsourcing your happiness. If someone doesn't notice your new purchase, or if they judge it negatively, your feeling of worth drops. Therefore, your mood, your stability, and your peace of mind are constantly dependent on what others think. Simple example, you spend a huge amount of money on a designer outfit for a party. You spend the whole night worrying if people recognize the brand, if they think you look good, or if they even care. Your focus is completely outward. Consequently, you miss out on enjoying the party, connecting with people authentically, or simply having a good time. The cost is the loss of your own presence and internal peace. The hidden cost on your time and future. The pressure to maintain a high-status image doesn't stop after the purchase. It forces massive, destructive costs on your most valuable resources, your time and your future financial security. Furthermore, the debt trap and lost opportunity. Most people cannot afford the items that signal the status they desire. Therefore, they go into debt. The desire to impress others pushes people to make financially irrational decisions, like leasing an overly expensive car or buying a house that is too large. This is the trap of lifestyle inflation. As your income increases, your spending on status symbols increases even faster. Simple example, you are focused on buying a bigger house in a better neighborhood to impress distant relatives and colleagues. You take on a huge 25-year mortgage. As a result, every dollar you earn goes toward debt and interest instead of investing. The unseen cost is the lost opportunity for early retirement, financial freedom, or even just peace of mind. You sacrifice decades of future options just to look successful today. Also, the burden of maintenance and anxiety. High-status items rarely offer true ease, they demand high maintenance. A luxury watch needs expensive servicing. A huge house requires constant cleaning, repair, and furnishing. This is the maintenance burden. You bought the item to signal a carefree life, but you actually bought yourself a demanding new job. Simple example, you buy a vintage, high-performance car to show off. The car constantly breaks down and requires specialized, costly repairs. You spend every weekend working on it or worrying about the next mechanic's bill. You live with constant anxiety about scratching the expensive paint or losing the item. The cost is not just money, it is your time, your energy, and a massive increase in day-to-day stress and anxiety. When you focus on impressing others, you build a shallow, fragile self. In addition, to maintain the status image, you must constantly curate and filter your life. You hide financial struggles, messy parts of your home, and imperfect moments. This is the authenticity gap. You create a false self that you feel you must present to the world. However, living with this gap between who you really are and who you pretend to be is profoundly exhausting and damaging to your mental health. Simple example, you go into debt to take a lavish vacation purely for the photos you will post online. You spend the entire trip focused on getting the perfect shot, not on enjoying the moment or the person you're with. Consequently, the vacation feels like a performance, not a rest. The unseen cost is the loss of genuine, in-the-moment experience and the quiet despair of constantly pretending to be someone you're not. Finally, the barrier to real connection. Status consumption creates relationships based on transaction and surface-level admiration, not on genuine connection. When you attract people with your possessions, you attract people who only value possessions. You filter out people who value depth, kindness, and shared experience. Simple example, you host a party and everyone is focused on judging your furniture, your wine selection, and the size of your space. Therefore, the conversation is shallow and focused on bragging or competition. You are left feeling admired but fundamentally unseen. The cost is the barrier you place between yourself and truly intimate, supportive relationships. You have traded a wide circle of shallow admirers for the chance at deep, meaningful friendship. The solution: reclaiming your value crown. The way out of this trap is not to become poor or cheap. It is to shift your focus from external status to internal substance. First and foremost, shift your validation source. Stop asking, "What will people think of this?" and start asking, "Does this align with my values?" Reclaim your self-worth from external objects and anchor it in your character, your skills, your relationships, and your contributions. This is the shift to internal validation. Next, embrace quiet confidence. Understand that people who are truly successful and confident rarely feel the need to broadcast it with loud, expensive items. Quiet confidence is a more powerful, mature status signal than any designer logo. Value experiences, skills, and time over objects. Stop trading your future freedom for present status. Prioritize time richness, having the time and freedom to choose how you spend your days over the short-term pleasure of buying a new object. The ability to not work is the ultimate non-material status symbol. Your goal is to stop funding your image and start funding your freedom. That is the only status that truly matters. We've reached the end of this journey, and I hope you feel a little lighter, a little clearer. We just took apart one of the biggest psychological taxes on your life, the cost of impressing others. Remember what we covered. First, we saw the trap of external validation, how buying status forces you to hand over your own self-worth to the fleeting opinions of others. When you buy a luxury watch, you're not buying time, you're buying a dependence on someone else's approval. Next, we looked at the destructive finance traps. We saw how lifestyle inflation and the pressure to signal success push you deep into debt. You realized that the true unseen cost of that big house or fancy car isn't the price tag. It's the lost opportunity, decades of your future freedom traded for a moment of shallow admiration. Finally, we explored the deep personal costs. The pressure to keep up the image creates an authenticity gap, forcing you to hide your real life and leaving you feeling utterly exhausted and alone. We also saw how focusing on material status creates a barrier to real connection, attracting only shallow admirers instead of genuine friends. Now here's the most important part. Change doesn't happen overnight, it takes patience. Breaking free from the need to impress is a journey. Your brain has been wired for years, maybe decades, to seek that dopamine hit from external approval. When you choose to stop buying status, you might feel uncomfortable. You might feel a little fear, a little urge to rush back to the old, easy ways. This is where you need patience with yourself. Don't expect your self-worth to instantly anchor itself internally. It takes time, it takes small daily choices, and it takes the quiet, sustained effort of living a life based on your values, not on a performance for a crowd. The freedom you're looking for, the quiet confidence, and the time richness is built with patience. Be patient as you untangle yourself from debt. Be patient as you learn to value experiences over objects. Be patient as you teach your brain to find joy in internal substance. The most valuable status symbol is a life lived on your own terms, and that is a masterpiece that takes time to paint. If this video gave you the clarity to start choosing substance over status, please show your support. Subscribe for more psychological strategies to build a life of genuine wealth. Now, go forward, be patient with your journey, and let me know in the comments, what is one non-material value you are going to focus on building this week? Let's commit to patience together.